Every year, AJ and I like to take a little bit of time and look forward to the year ahead and all it has to offer for our little buddy, the Nintendo Switch. Whether that be concrete game releases, speculation on new titles and hardware, or anything else, there's a lot to ponder.
And while Parker and I usually do separate videos outside of our podcast, of course, that you should check out, linked in the card above, we know these videos where we sort of reflect on the past year and predict the next year of Nintendo Switch tend to introduce a lot of new people to our channel. So we're trying something new and teaming up on this year's video to introduce all of those new viewers to the both of us at once.
It's always exciting to look at the prospects of a new year, but when thinking about Nintendo's 2021, there's kind of a perfect storm of reasons that I'm really excited to see what's around the corner. You ready?
I refuse. Say it by yourself.
Let's talk about it. Kicking right into gear, we've got several titles that are announced, slated, and specifically dated for 2021. First and foremost is Monster Hunter Rise. A Switch-exclusive Monster Hunter had been rumored and speculated for a long time, but finally was confirmed in September to be releasing on March 26th, 2021. If you're unfamiliar with Monster Hunter, it's a storied franchise that has had a solid foundation on Nintendo platforms, but recently found a new audience through the release of Monster Hunter World, which didn't make an appearance on the Switch. In this new game, you play as a hunter in Kamura Village, where various monsters have seemingly been attempting to invade and destroy, and every monster you defeat will drop scales, horns, tusks, and more, which are crafted into increasingly powerful weapons and armor used to defeat the even more challenging monsters. Monster Hunter is often best enjoyed as a multiplayer experience, but that's entirely optional. And Rise is particularly exciting because it blends the innovation from Monster Hunter World, like seamless level design, along with other classic gameplay elements fans had missed, and brand new stuff too, like climbing. Some months later in the summer, we'll also get Monster Hunter Stories 2. We've seen much less gameplay for this, but to oversimplify what it is for a minute, it's a kind of slightly more grown-up Pokemon game.
I resent that.
But for Monster Hunter fans. Monster collection, turn-based battle system, and so on. I won't directly say I'm more excited for this game than Monster Hunter Rise.
I will.
But I very well might be.
I am.
Just a month earlier though, on February 12th, Mario's 35th anniversary culminates with an enhanced port of Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury.
Super Mario 3D World is a game with a lot of potential to succeed in a big way on Nintendo Switch for several reasons. It's an online compatible Mario game. It's a Wii U game that, while received well by fans and critics alike, wasn't experienced by many due to the Wii U's lackluster sales, which we know tends to be a solid formula for success on Switch for the ports of Wii U games. Even more than all of that, it seems to be getting a fair amount of solid new content for fans new and old to experience. And honestly, this may be a hot take for some, but I think 3D World is in the upper echelon amongst 3D Mario games. I even ranked it that way in the video where I ranked every mainline Mario game, which you should check up in the link card above if you haven't seen it already.
Some other exciting games with a general 2021 release date set are Balan Wonderworld on March 26th, a new 3D platformer made by Square Enix, Rune Factory 5, an adventure and RPG management sim, Bear and Breakfast, an adorable indie game about running a bed and breakfast as a bear, and a whole bunch more. But moving on from that category, one of the things I think will make 2021 such a strong year is just how weird 2020 was. Honestly, despite everything going on, the year ended up being pretty strong for the Switch. What with Age of Calamity, Paper Mario, some really good enhanced ports, and need I say, Animal Crossing New Horizons. But there were definitely some titles that had been planned for 2020, but certainly got pushed into the next year, and that's what we're going to talk about now. Bravely Default 2 is a direct sequel to Bravely Default on the 3DS, and although we got a demo for it earlier in 2020 with a tentative 2020 date, it seems to have fallen to 2021 by now. But if this team who worked on Octopath Traveler follows suit from back then we can expect that the extensive feedback fans gave on the demo to this fantasy turn-based RPG will not go unnoticed. Where this game differs from other JRPGs is not implementing random encounters, since you see the enemies in the overworld, and a unique and interesting battle system. Regardless, I think we're liable to hear about this one soon. And Pokemon Snap may be something from before your time, but it was a highlight of my childhood gaming experience for sure, and is poised to make its grand return in the sequel, New Pokemon Snap.
While we don't don't know for sure, it's pretty likely that we'll see the release of new Pokemon Snap, and if we're being real, the Pokemon Snap IP means that game is worthy of being positioned as the big 2021 holiday Nintendo Switch game, regardless of what its contents turn out to be, in the same way that the 3D All-Stars collection sold phenomenally despite all of the fans' complaints before that game was initially released. That said, while I doubt it'll be a crazy open world adventure that'll take hundreds of hours to complete, I do think new Pokemon Snap will be significantly more feature rich than the original game. More Pokemon, more locations, more ways to engage with those Pokemon through tools, and maybe even camera settings of some sort. I think this game will be a much bigger release than the original, and I think it'll be a much bigger success than the original for those reasons and more.
No More Heroes 3, on the other hand, doesn't even need the speculation that it's been pushed, as Suda51 himself said so in some PR earlier this year. But this is one that we're all very excited about. No More Heroes is a fairly edgy but self-aware series about killing assassins, and in this case seems to be about killing aliens who have come back to Earth to try to rule it. And I think this is going to be one of the many games that's going to satisfy the core gamer demographic that might have signed on for Breath of the Wild or Smash Bros, but not necessarily care about, you know, Animal Crossing or something. It's a market that the flexibility of the Switch hardware captures really well, but I'm looking to 2021 to really deliver on the software front. There's a lot more games like this that we expected this year, but are now practically shoo-ins for 2021, but by far one of my most anticipated is Hollow Knight Silksong. Long story short, the first Hollow Knight is the epitome of a Metroidvania and is designed with so much love and class. I just can't wait to see what they do with its sequel. And I would spend longer on this category, but we haven't even gotten to the speculation part of the video yet. So here's a few highlights of other games that I think were pushed. Sports Story, the sequel to the indie game hit Golf Story. Axiom Verge 2, another sequel to a revered Metroidvania. Skatebird, the cross-section of cute and 90s. King's Bounty 2, a strategy RPG that I may be the only person excited about, but I'm excited about it. And Fogs, a silly co-op physics puzzle platformer that AJ and Bob and I played at PAX and really enjoyed. And now we tread slightly more uncharted waters. But right before we do, we'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button. It's actually, it's one of my favorite buttons on the internet, honestly. And if you hit it, you risk being one of my favorite people on the internet, along with a lot of the folks over on our Discord, which there's coincidentally a link in the description for that as well. But let's keep going. First up, some of the other games contributing to the core gamer theme for 2021, I think will be Bayonetta 3 and Metroid Prime 4 with an asterisk. Now, I do think Bayonetta 3 is basically a lock for 2021 at this point. Platinum has gotten a lot of their other projects out of the way and have often said the development is going well. And to be honest, I think we may even see our first real glimpse of it in 2020 at the Game Awards. Nintendo seems to have a type of game they like to show here, and this obviously fits there since it did in years past. Metroid Prime 4, I think, will only do one of those things, which is to show up. It would be a miracle for it to release in 2021, but I have a strong suspicion that if not at the Game Awards 2020, then 2021 is a solid guess as to seeing our first real trailer for the game. But even if not Prime 4, the chances of some kind of Metroid game coming out in 2021 are pretty palpable. The way I see it going is a June trailer for Prime 4 with a 2022 date or no date at all, just to reassure us that it's still coming, followed by an announcement for Prime Trilogy HD coming out at the end of summer of 2021, likely August or September. We also could see a 2D Metroid, but I'm not holding my breath for now. And along with these core gamer games, there's a good chance that this is the year for an upgraded revision of the Nintendo Switch or the Switch Pro. I won't go into extensive detail about it right now because we recently made a video on the topic, but definitely go check that out. There's a link in the card above if you want to hear more about the Switch Pro and what could be coming. I'm not going to say I'm expecting it for next year, but between you and me, I'm kind of expecting it for next year. 2020 was also odd because we didn't get a standalone Pokemon game, but rather DLC for Sword and Shield, which may not turn out the strongest year for the Pokemon company, but is a good sign of what they could do with that time instead in looking ahead.
As far as mainline Pokemon is concerned, it's sort of up in the air where they'll go next. They've never done DLC before, so we don't know if the roadmap includes more DLC or if they'll do what they've done in the past and do a remake or a full new generation. direction. As far as what I would hope to happen, I definitely would rather they make more DLC to buy more time to make a full next-gen experience that no Pokemon fans will complain about, because that's definitely a possible thing that'll happen, don't you think?
Next year also marks an important year for Nintendo, as it's their 35th anniversary of Zelda. Now, we just had Mario's 35th anniversary and it went well, but was obviously clouded by the inherent unexpectancies of 2020. But Zelda's 35th is now around the corner, and even if it's the only thing that it brings, the sequel to Breath of the Wild is just about a guarantee for next year, and I could not be more excited about this. Breath of the Wild is such a deep and fun game with something amazing waiting around every corner, and based on the one trailer so far, we're looking to get more of the same, but with even more story, possibly some more dungeons, some magic and new abilities, and whatever can build off of what's set up in Age of Calamity. I'm calling it now, this will be my game of the year for 2021, no contest. But Zelda's 35th stands to bring even more with it than just that.
It's possible that we'll end up seeing the dreaded March 2021 end date for Mario 35 culminating into a reworking of that game to be a Zelda game with the same 35 branding. It won't work exactly like Mario 35, obviously, but I think it'll follow the same framework in the same way that Mario 35 follows the Tetris 99 framework. In addition to that, the success of 3D All-Stars makes it all the more likely that we'll see more Zelda ports, remasters, or remakes make their way to Switch as well. That could mean Skyward Sword, that could mean the pre-existing Wii U ports, it could mean the 3DS ports. I think it could even mean a Link's Awakening for Nintendo Switch-like remake for Link to the Past. As for which of those, or what combination of those we'll end up seeing, it's anyone's guess really, but I am positive that we'll see at least two of those things happening. My guess would be Skyward Sword and the Wii U ports.
And finally, there is frankly so much that we simply don't know about 2021. All of this has been based in conjecture only based on the amount that we already know. But looking at years past, Nintendo has a huge track record of announcing games within the year or less that they come out. So here's what I think could still be announced and released next year. First of all, Good Feel, who made Yoshi's Crafted World, Woolly World, Wario Land Shake It, and a whole bunch more, has teased a brand new action game set in a Japanese world, apparently with fun references to Japanese culture and stuff like that. We know nothing more about the game, but if it was teased now, I would be shocked if we didn't release it next year. It's also just about time for another game out of Camelot Studios. Realistically, I think it's liable to be a new Mario Golf game, but if you're a regular here, you know that I would give my left earlobe for a new Golden Sun title. Again, not holding my breath, but I've got a left earlobe with Nintendo's name on it. Just keep that in mind. I'm also expecting we see brand new Sonic game that'll help rejuvenate the 3D side of the franchise like Sonic Mania did to the 2D side. And I'm also half expecting a brand new Donkey Kong this year as well. Lastly, we'll get our fair share of ports, remasters, and indie games that'll round out the full experience to give us a really solid 2021. And I think there's a lot more than just that to be excited about.
As always, I'm interested in seeing what Nintendo's other studios are working on. Will we ever see the game that Retro was working on before they took over Prime for its development? What will be the 2021 Nintendo EPD developed releases? Will the comments Kingdom Hearts director Tetsuya Nomura made in his recent Nintendo Dream interview culminate in a 2021 Kingdom Hearts Switch release? Will we see another Xbox Game Studio game come to Switch despite Phil Spencer suggesting the opposite? And those are our thoughts on the impact Nintendo Switch will continue to have as we move into and through 2021. What did you think of 2020? Do you think 2021 will surpass it like we do? What are you looking forward to being released? Let us know that and more in the comments down below, and we'll grab a selection of those to read on this week's episode of our Nintendo podcast directly to you. And we plan to play Among Us this weekend with YouTube members and Twitch subscribers. So if you have Twitch Prime, maybe head to Twitch and give us that Prime subscription for the month and we'll be able to kill each other. But above all else, if you enjoy this channel, the easiest way to help us all out is by ringing the bell and clicking the subscribe button to be notified of new videos from me and Parker every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, that's it for me. See you Thursday.